Jacob, the incredible man who wrestled with God, a miraculous encounter of divine transformation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, as shadows stretched across the land, Jacob found himself alone by the banks of the Jabbok River. The stars flickered like distant promises overhead, but within Jacob's heart dwelled a turmoil deeper than the night itself. Fleeing the bitter consequences of his own deception, he carried the weight of betrayal, having taken both the birthright and blessing that belonged to his brother Esau. The very thought of reconciling with the man he had wronged filled him with dread, as he moved restlessly along the riverbank. Each whisper of the night seemed to echo his missteps, reminding him of the fractured bond with Esau. Would he be met with the warm embrace of a brother, or the wrath of a man wronged? Jacob's thoughts spiraled through the labyrinth of his fear and regret, feeling utterly inadequate as the dawn of their meeting drew near. He longed for a blessing that would affirm his place not only as a son of Isaac, but as a man worthy of God's favor. As time meandered through the hours of darkness, the air thickened with an ethereal hush. Then, as if summoned by the weight of Jacob's turmoil, a figure materialized out of the shadows, an enigmatic man whose presence pulsed with an unearthly power. Before words were exchanged, they were locked in a fierce struggle, a wrestling match that rumbled the very ground below. With each grapple, Jacob felt the tensions of his soul mirrored in the physical strain, contending against the identity of a usurper. "Let me go," the man intoned, his voice firm yet imbued with gentleness, just as the first light of dawn began to creep upon the horizon. Yet Jacob, driven by desperation, clung tighter and declared, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." In that moment, his cry echoed the deepest longing of his heart, a yearning for a transformation, a redefinition of his identity. A swift motion, and the stranger touched Jacob's hip, dislocating it with a jolt that sent sharp pain surging through him. This was a pain, however, that bore clarity. In the agony, the veil of self-deception lifted, revealing the truth. He was wrestling not merely with a man, but with God himself. Tears mingled with the dust of the earth as he recognized the divine nature of his struggle, grasping for the blessing that could restore him. "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed," the man proclaimed with solemnity. This miraculous encounter marked a pivotal moment in Jacob's life. As light broke through the night, casting a golden glow across the river, he limped away, forever altered, carrying a renewed identity and the weight of promise. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As dawn broke, there lingered within Jacob an unresolved longing. How would he face Esau with this newfound identity? And would this blessing be enough to bridge the chasm created by his past? The uncertainty hung in the air like a challenge yet to be met, as Jacob began to tread forward on the path that would lead him to his brother, carrying with him the scars and blessings of a divine encounter. The next chapter awaited, wrapped in the sacred tapestry of God's unfolding plan. As Jacob approached the encampment where he knew Esau would be, the dawn's golden rays illuminated his path, yet the heaviness in his heart remained. The last time he had seen his brother, the air had been thick with anger, and he could still hear the echo of Esau's anguish ringing in his ears. Jacob had betrayed him, and now, as a man renewed, he feared he would have to confront the very consequences of his actions. The air was filled with tension as he sent messengers ahead to greet Esau, bearing gifts of livestock: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows, 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys. A small army of blessings meant to soften Esau's heart. The messengers returned with words that pierced Jacob's heart. Esau was coming, and with him were 400 men. Panic seized Jacob, and he divided his company into two. If Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the other camp will escape. He bowed his head in desperation, praying to the God of his father Abraham and the God of his father Isaac. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, that he may come and attack me and the mothers with the children. He recalled the promise God had made to him at Bethel, how he had assured him that his descendants would be as the dust of the earth. And now, standing on the precipice of reconciliation, he cried out, "You said, I will surely do you good and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted." Jacob took the gifts and spent a night in solitude, the weight of his past bearing heavily on him. As he looked toward the horizon, he saw the sun rising, yet the darkness still loomed within. He understood that he must meet his brother not merely as a brother, but as the man whom he had wronged, clinging to God's goodness and mercy. As the sun rose higher, Jacob drew near, bowing low to the ground 7 times as he approached Esau, surrendering himself in humility. Esau, seeing his brother limping with an unfamiliar gait, was moved with compassion. He ran to him, embraced him, and fell upon his neck, weeping. The tears of a long-awaited reunion mingled with the sorrow of a past steeped in betrayal. "What are all these flocks I met?" Esau inquired, wiping away his tears. "Those are to find favor in your sight, my lord," Jacob replied, heart pounding, yet hope igniting within him. Esau raised his hand. "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." In that moment, as their eyes locked, Jacob sensed that the heavy weight of his past was lifting. "No, please. If I have found favor in your sight, accept my present from my hand. For I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me." A profound shift of heart took place as they embraced, reconciling the past with tears of joy and forgiveness. The journey of transformation bore witness to the grace of God, for it was in wrestling with the past that Jacob found his identity in the present. But as the brothers parted, a divine whisper lingered in the air, hinting at the larger tapestry of God's sovereign plan unfolding. Little did they know that from this union and reconciliation would rise nations, fraught with struggles yet soaked in promise. What paths would their descendants tread, and what covenant would God renew through them? The answer lay cloaked in the mystery of the Almighty's eternal embrace, awaiting revelation. As the brothers embraced in the warm glow of reconciliation, the peace that enveloped them was a testament to God's grace. Jacob stepped back and surveyed the vast herd of animals that had moved como símbolos de entrega y de humildad, tokens of a heart transformed and softened by fear of the past. Each bleating sheep and lowing ox was a reminder that God had indeed intervened, orchestrating a moment of restoration. "Come, let us journey together," Esau offered, spreading his arms wide. "I will travel with you and see to your safety." But Jacob, his heart heavy with the burdens of leadership, replied, "My lord, I appreciate your offer, but I am tender with the children and the flocks. Let my lord pass on ahead of his servant, while I travel at my own pace." Wisely, he felt the urgency to let the peace settle, knowing full well the implications of their newfound relationship. Esau acquiesced, but his heart remained open, a wellspring of commitment to his brother. Thus they parted, each man carrying remnants of their past, yet emboldened by hope for their shared future. Jacob continued on, and as the sun began to dip below the horizon, a peaceful solitude enveloped him like a comforting blanket. He ventured toward the land of Shechem, the ground beneath his feet soft and yielding, as if the very earth rejoiced at his passage. Each step reminded him of God's faithfulness, the promise made in dreams, the vision he had seen at Bethel. But as night fell, wrestling with more than memories now, Jacob found himself alone under the starlit expanse. He was abruptly mindful that reconciliation was an ongoing journey, requiring more than mere words, but a bold acceptance of God's grace. A palpable tension filled the air as the shadows of the night stretched long, and then a figure appeared. A man wrestled with Jacob until dawn, where the struggle became an exchange of identity. "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking," the stranger said, yet Jacob gripped him tightly. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The grip of Jacob's hands mirrored the grasp of his heart. He sought affirmation and divine favor. The man replied, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he admitted, the weight of the name resonating deeply within him, for it meant deceiver, supplanter, the very essence of his past wrongs. The radiant presence responded with grace. Your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. With this declaration, a new path illuminated before Jacob as the sun crested on the horizon, its rays piercing through the shadows of the night. His heart surged with awe, and he understood that in his struggles and in his surrender, he had been transformed. Yet, as he walked away, limping from the encounter, a lingering weight pulsed in his spirit. Would the blessing endure with his children? Could it blossom into nations as the Lord had originally promised? As dawn's light broke fully, illuminating the path ahead, Jacob paused, a prayer silently spilling from his heart. What destiny awaits my descendants? Will they walk in faith and strive for the covenant you laid before my fathers? And there, amidst the rustling leaves, the answer was shrouded in divine mystery. The sovereign plan of God still unfolded, waiting for those willing to embrace their identities in His light. The future danced on the precipice of uncertainty, each moment a step toward destiny, echoing truths promised long ago, a tapestry woven in the hearts of generations yet to come. And Jacob lifted his gaze, the dawn revealing splendor upon the land of Canaan, yet still a burden rested heavily upon him. A limping stride was now a reminder of his encounter, both blessed and broken. He pondered on the weight of the name Israel. It spoke not merely of triumph over man, but of divine struggle and the necessity of faith intertwined with human endeavor. As he approached the city of Shechem, the sounds of life greeted him, the bustling of merchants and the cheerful clamor of children playing. But amidst the noise, Jacob's heart lurched with a current of anxiety as he recalled the promise of the Lord. The land that flowed with milk and honey awaited not only him, but the generations yet to come. Could a man such as I bear the weight of such a name and legacy? He thought, deeply troubled. Thus, he made his way to the oak of Moreh where the Shechemites gathered, and halted his journey. He built an altar there, raising his eyes toward the heavens, reminding himself of what the Lord had spoken unto him. To your offspring, I will give this land. Genesis 12:7. He poured out his heart in prayer, acknowledging his frailty, seeking guidance for that which lay ahead. As sacrifice smoldered on the altar, a voice like the rustling of gentle winds graced his ears. Israel, I am the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bless you, and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake. Genesis 26:24. With these words, Jacob's spirit soared anew, as the assurance of divine promise washed over him like refreshing rain upon parched ground. He felt emboldened, knowing he had indeed wrestled with God and triumphed, but now his identity carried weight, echoing the faith of those who walked before him. Yet even with newfound hope, a shadow flickered in the recesses of his mind. His thoughts wandered back to Esau, his brother, the hunter-turned-protector, whose heart had softened through the course of reconciliation. Jacob determined to send gifts of gratitude, a token of his humility and brotherly love, beyond what he had already given. He called for his servants, instructing them meticulously, "Go to my brother Esau and say to him, your servant Jacob says this, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and servants. I send to you my Lord that I might find favor in your sight." Genesis 32:4-5. The servants departed with swift feet, carrying words and gifts meant to bridge their hearts further into unity. And as they traveled, news swept through the camp like the dawn of a new day. Esau approached with 400 men. Panic seared through Jacob's heart, the fear of the past clawing at the edges of his newfound peace. How can this be? Will my brother return to the ways of old? He fretted, prostrating himself low upon the earth. Yet in that posture of humility, an ember of faith ignited within him. O God of my father Abraham, of my father Isaac, you who said to me, return to your country and to your kindred, that I may do you good. Genesis 32:9. There in the shadows of doubt, his soul clung to the promise and steadfastness of God, and with that, the reality of his situation weighed against the sovereign hand of the Almighty. Jacob lifted his eyes, preparing his heart for whatever lay ahead. For he was not just a man caught in the unknown. He was Israel, the one who struggled with God, and in whom God's plans would unfold in ways beyond comprehension. Thus his heart whispered boldly, "What new destiny awaits me and my children in the face of an uncertain welcome? What unknown plan lies within the heart of the Almighty, waiting to reveal itself through our trials?" And Jacob, trembling with fear, sought a path forward through the tumult in his heart. "What must I do?" he cried out in silent prayer as night descended upon the land. He could perceive the shadows lengthening, as if the very surroundings sensed the impending conflict with his brother. His multitude of thoughts raged in turmoil, yet amidst the storm, he recalled the promise given to him. "I shall bless you," whispered the voice of the Almighty. And with that promise encircling him, he took courageous steps, dividing his company into 2 camps, for he said within himself, "If Esau comes to the one camp and attacks it, then the other camp which is left will escape." Genesis 32:8. That night, Jacob lingered alone by the brook Jabbok, the waters gurgling softly, navigating between hope and dread. He found a place to retreat, a place where he might wrestle with his fears and seek the Lord once more. In solitude, he threw himself before God, laying bare his heart, crying, "O God, deliver me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and attack me, the mothers with the children." Genesis 32:11. Suddenly, a night of divine mystery unfolded before him. As he prayed fervently, a mysterious figure approached, appearing as a man yet emanating an unearthly presence. It was an encounter that set his very soul to struggle, not merely with the man before him, but it reflected Jacob's inward battle, wrestling against his doubts and past misdeeds. Through the dark, Jacob clung to this figure, girded with determination, stating, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Genesis 32:26. Mighty was his grip, fueled by desperation and hope, for Jacob craved assurance, a blessing that would affirm his identity and purpose. The mysterious one inquired, "What is your name?" With the weight of his past intertwined in that single word, Jacob responded, "My name is Jacob," revealing not just his identity, but his history, every act of deceit and fear. "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel," declared the figure, "for you have striven with God and with men, and have prevailed." Genesis 32:28. A transformative echo resounded across the landscape, marking an indelible moment, a new name signifying a new destiny. Jacob released the embrace of the divine figure, yet he remained filled with awe, asking, "Tell me, I pray, your name." But the other, with wisdom and intensity, replied, "Why is it that you ask my name?" With that, his face shone radiant in the darkness, leaving Jacob trembling yet awakened. As dawn broke, Jacob named the place Peniel, declaring, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered." Genesis 32:30. With a new limp, a new name, and a heart laden with grace, he prepared to meet Esau, emboldened by the divine assurance that the past would not dictate the future. Thus Jacob raised his eyes towards the horizon, where the clouds began to shift in hues of gold. A thought struck him. What awaits me in the face of reunion? Can the chains of past choices be broken amid the love of my brother? Little did he know, God was orchestrating a reunion marked not by vengeance but by divine purpose, a gathering where the burdens of yesterday would pave the way for a legacy yet unknown. And as the figures of Esau and his men drew near, Jacob's heart whispered a prayer. What new encounter awaits, and how shall the Lord reveal his plan through this flesh and blood moment of reconciliation? And as Jacob beheld the approaching figures, his heart quickened within him, for fear mingled with hope. He arranged his servants and their families, thus placing them in a manner that would honor his brother and convey his humility. The gift must go before me, he thought, recalling the value of reconciliation. Let me appease him with these presents. Thus he sent ahead a multitude of livestock, 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 nursing camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 foals. He instructed the servants, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'To whom do you belong, and where are you going? Whose are these in front of you?' You shall say, They are your servant Jacob's. It is a present sent to my lord Esau, and behold, he is behind us. Genesis 32:13-18. In this manner, he hoped to remain humble before Esau, anticipating the possible wrath born of years past. For he feared that Esau may come to him with anger, and the memories of their estranged past loomed heavy in his heart. Yet laden with renewed faith, Jacob appointed servants to go before him, assuring that their path crossed with Esau first, praying all the while for a heart open to forgiveness. As darkness blanketed the ground again, Jacob retreated by the bank of the Jabbok, a place where he felt the weight of his family's burdens mingling with his own soul. The chill of the evening fed his fervorous plea. "O Lord," he whispered in reverence, "I am unworthy of the least of all the deeds of steadfast love and all the faithfulness that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed this Jordan, and now I have become two camps." Genesis 32:10. His spirit wrestled anew with the unfolding of God's purposes, for in prayer, he sought hope amidst his anxiousness. The night grew deeper, and in that shadowy silence, he felt the pull of a divine purpose enveloping him, a promise ever unbroken, standing as a beacon against the dark. His thoughts raced towards the legacy of the covenant made with his forefathers, a reminder that God had chosen him for great things. In his deeper contemplation, God's faithfulness stirred within him. "Though my past is fraught with deceit, your plan is greater still." At last, as dawn's light crested the horizon, the distant outline of Esau and his men became plainly visible. There was no turning back, for Jacob stood trembling, a mixture of dread and resolution coursing through his veins. With a heart boldened by conviction and a name bestowed upon him by God, he stepped forward with his family in tow. As Esau drew nearer, a crack of silence fell, the ground holding its breath in reverence to what was about to unfold. Jacob, with humility, bowed low to the ground 7 times, positioning himself under the weight of his brother's potential wrath. But before Jacob could utter a word, his brother rushed into his arms, embracing him fiercely. The ghost of bitter separation dissolved into tears of reconciliation. "Is it really you, my brother?" Esau exclaimed as astonishment spread across his visage, dimming the shadows of the past. Jacob replied, "For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me." Genesis 33:10. In that surreal moment of embrace, Jacob felt a peace that surpassed understanding, realizing that the chains of his past had been obliterated by grace. They wept together, brothers no longer separated by deception, but joined in a bond forged anew. And as they withdrew from that embrace, the echoes of God's sovereign hand underlined their reunion that day. God was weaving a grander narrative, and little did they know how their united path would illuminate a lineage of faith and promise, leading into the tapestry of a nation destined to bear witness to his glory. Thus the Lord's plan remained shrouded in divine mystery, poised to unfold in ways unforeseen, as the hearts of men aligned with his purpose. "What more shall be unveiled as we walk from this day forth?" Jacob pondered, sensing the ripples of destiny shaping not only their lives, but the course of generations to come. As Jacob and Esau stood entwined in the depths of their newfound brotherhood, the air was thick with the scent of forgiveness, a fragrance sweeter than all the gifts Jacob had sent. They pulled apart, their faces wet with tears, and for a moment, time itself seemed to pause, watching them as the past fell away like autumn leaves. Esau, bewildered yet joyful, observed the wealth of livestock that Jacob had sent. "What is this company that I meet?" he asked, his eyes widening at the multitude surrounding them. Jacob, with a heart still trembling, responded, "These are to find favor in the sight of my Lord, for I am unworthy of the kindness and the truth that you have shown to me." Genesis 33:8-10. Esau shook his head in disbelief, now tempered by a gentleness born of love. "I have enough, my brother. Keep what is yours." He glanced at the gifts, their value shimmering in the early light, and added, "But I pray that you accept this gift from my hand, for I have seen your face, which is like seeing the face of God, and you have accepted me." Genesis 33:10-11. In that moment, Jacob saw not only his brother's acceptance but also a reflection of his own journey, a transformation that God had wrought in both of their hearts. The years of strife had fostered a bond stronger than blood, one intertwined with divine purpose, and even now he grasped the threads of that sacred tapestry being woven before his eyes. "What shall we do now?" Esau inquired, glancing at the family gathered behind Jacob, the children eager yet shy, watching from their parents' shelter. "Let us go together," Jacob suggested earnestly, "that we might travel as one family, united and renewed." But Esau, ever the shepherd, looked back at his brother, noting the weariness in Jacob's camels and the tender age of his children. "Let my Lord go before his servant. I will lead slowly, according to the pace of the animals that are before me, and the pace of the children." Genesis 33:14. Thus, with hearts brimming with joy, the brothers parted ways for a time, each to their dwelling, Esau toward Seir, and Jacob journeying toward Succoth. Along the way, Jacob built a booth for his livestock, symbolizing not just his newfound peace, but the place where he would stay, to cultivate a life destined to flourish under the covenant promise of God. He constructed an altar there and named it El Elohe Israel, proclaiming, "God, the God of Israel, is my refuge and strength." Genesis 33:20. His voice resonated heavenward, the words of praise rolling forth, a testament of gratitude for what was and what was yet to come. As the sun dipped lower in the heavens, Jacob reflected on his encounters. He remembered the fight with the angel, for it was a distinct moment of revelation when he had grasped the divine and emerged transformed, no longer the deceiver, but Israel, a prince with God. A shiver ran down his spine as he recalled how he had wrestled through the night, his perseverance met with a blessing, affirming his new identity. Yet still, the promise of God lingered, breathing whispers of the future within him, spiritual murmurs that stirred his soul. "What lies ahead for my children, my descendants?" he pondered, knowing that generations awaited his guidance. Even then, the air crackled with divine promise, and the heavens opened as the stars twinkled, celestial messengers reflecting the heart of their Creator. The Lord has not finished with us yet, Jacob thought, sensing that greater things were still to unfold. What future divine encounters awaited? What destinies rested in the hearts of his children, yet to be born? As Jacob made his way forth, he walked not in fear, but in the boldness of the promise bestowed, anchored deeper in the love of his reconciled brother. Thus the chapters of their story were entwined within God's magnificent tapestry, yet to be unraveled before the eyes of men, each thread whispering a mystery of faith. What greater fulfillment of his promises are set to emerge, he questioned, as the night deepened, a glimmer of hope shining brightly within. As Jacob settled in Succoth, the nights grew cooler, and the stars above shone brighter than he had ever seen them. Each night held a promise, whispering of the journeys yet to unfold, stirring the depths of his heart with visions of what the Lord had in store. He gazed upon his family, marveling at their innocence and their hope, an image of the future that beckoned him onward. One evening, as Jacob prayed fervently, seeking the face of God, he felt an urgency within, an echo of the encounter he had experienced long ago at Peniel. The memory of wrestling with the angel came flooding back, a mingling of fear and awe. He had grasped the infinite essence of the Lord and emerged with a name that now defined his very being. "Israel," he whispered, feeling the weight of it settle like a mantle upon his shoulders. Determined, he arose at dawn to journey toward Shechem, where the land breathed promise and hope. He felt the weight of burdens lift as he moved. With each step, he recalled God's covenant, the assurance of blessings that would flow through his lineage. The land would be for his children, and through him, the nations would be blessed. Yet he sensed a lingering fear of the past, a shadow that loomed behind him, reminding him of the wrongs done to his brother, and the anxiety that had once defined their relationship. As he approached the territory of Shechem, a sudden unease gripped him. His heart raced, and he turned to his sons gathered around him, their youthful faces illuminated by the morning sun. "My sons, an air of dread haunts this place," he confessed, his voice low. "We must lay our hearts bare before the Lord, for in the midst of promise, the enemy seeks to devour." His children, full of youthful vigor, nodded solemnly. They gathered, hands clasped together, seeking the favor of the Almighty. Jacob led them in prayer, beseeching God to protect them from the shadows that might threaten their path. He did not merely ask for shelter, but for a division from the mistakes of his past, a line that could not be crossed. Days turned into weeks, and Jacob toiled the ground sowing and reaping, yet his soul remained restless. It was as if the echoes of his past reverberated in the depths of his spirit, compelling him to confront the hidden struggles within. One night, as the moon cast a silvery glow, Jacob found himself drawn to a grove where the trees whispered secrets of old. He knelt beneath their boughs, entreating God to reveal the depths of his heart. It was there, under the watchful gaze of the heavenly hosts, that the line was drawn. The wrestling spirit returned to him, not in the form of an angel, but as a whisper from the depths of his soul. "What is your name?" the voice queried, invoking a profound recognition of who he was, the deceiver, yet now transformed. "I am Jacob," he confessed, perhaps for the last time, knowing that this confession was part of the healing and redemption God had offered him. "But I have wrestled with the mighty, and have seen through my grief." With that, the divine presence descended upon him like the whirlwind, and not with fury but with grace, enveloping him within mercy's embrace. "You are not Jacob any longer. Now you are Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and you have prevailed." At that moment, a sacred peace enveloped him. Prophecies long hidden began to swirl within him, destinies unfolding like blossoms in spring. "What shall I teach my children? What legacy shall I leave?" He breathed deeply, understanding that the way forward was not merely his own, but would shape the generations that would come. As the dawn broke, casting a golden light over the earth, Jacob stood with renewed vigor, sensing the imminent stirrings of God's purpose. It was time for a new chapter, one that would ripple across the ages. Jacob realized then that he must prepare for a greater wrestling match. This time, not with the divine, but with the responsibilities that lay ahead in guiding his family through the unfolding tapestry of faith. What awaits his children, and how would the nations remember these tales of blessing? And trembling with anticipation, he lifted his gaze skyward, for he understood that the Almighty was still weaving a story that would unveil itself in ways yet unknown. What divine encounters still await on this holy journey, he pondered, as light broke forth, revealing the path ahead laid before him, intricately designed by God's own hand. As the sun broke over Shechem, a new day dawned, bright with the hope of promises yet fulfilled. Israel, once Jacob, stood at the precipice of his destiny, his heart racing with both fervor and trepidation. He sought to guide his family, to mold them into a lineage of faithfulness that would echo through generations. Gathering his sons, he spoke with the authority of a father renewed. "Hear me, my children. We are called to stand as a people separate, peculiar unto the Lord. We cannot repeat the sins of our forefathers, nor carry the burdens of unfinished business. The God who has been with me is the same one who walks with us. He calls us to rise above." The air grew thick with anticipation as his sons listened intently, their eyes reflecting both resolve and curiosity. Reuben, the eldest, stepped forward, his voice steady. "Father, what must we do to bind ourselves to this covenant?" "Gather your hearts to the true God," Israel responded, a fire igniting within him. "Seek his face in all areas of your lives. We will offer sacrifices of praise and tread upon the altars of worship. The Lord has commanded us to go forth and claim the land betwixt us just as he has promised to our forefather Abraham." In that moment, the vision of what lay ahead unfurled like a scroll before him. The sacred bond they were forging, born of prayer and unity, would not only establish their legacy, but also steer them clear of the turbulent waters that had once threatened to engulf his own soul. As the days turned to weeks, Israel led his family in the rebuilding of faith, shedding the vestiges of the past. They forged new paths through the land, reclaiming the ground where fear had previously held sway. His sons became mighty men, filled with the vigor of their father's renewed spirit, each rearing to take their place in the unfolding saga. However, there lingered a shadow. Simeon and Levi, fierce in their nature, bore a disquieting fire that mirrored the wrath they had once unleashed upon Shechem, for the dishonor of their sister Dinah. Israel felt it gnawing at their unity, a reminder that the metamorphosis of their lineage would require not only strength but tenderness, a balance of justice and mercy. One twilight, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant hues, Israel sat apart, seeking the presence of the Lord. Steeping in prayer, he recalled the covenant made to Abraham and further to Isaac, the weight of their legacy pulsing through his veins. "O Lord," he cried, "to whom shall I turn when the darkness draws near? Will you guide our steps, lest we be swallowed by our own tumult?" A bird caught above him, breaking the solemn silence as a calm assurance enveloped him. In that stillness, he heard the whisper of the Almighty. "Fear not, Israel, for I am with you, and the hearts of men are in my hands, whether gentle or fierce. The lineage shall flow from you and will bring forth a great nation, even when conflict brews within." Strengthened by the Lord's promise, Israel rose to meet his sons, the dawn reflecting in his eyes. "Prepare yourselves, for the Lord has not abandoned us. He is about to unveil his plan among us. The days of sorrow shall yield to glory." The family unified, hearts beating to the rhythm of God's purpose. Swiftly they turned their endeavors to the rituals of sacrifice, fervently offering praise as the scents of incense wafted heavenward, saturating the air with worship. Blood was poured upon the altar and songs burst forth like springs of water. Their devotion stilled the spirit of strife momentarily, as the heavens watched with eager anticipation. Yet amidst their praises, the memory of the past clung to Simeon and Levi, a reminder that their true tests had yet to come. What would be the unraveling of their storied past? As they sought the face of God amidst the gathering clouds, the heavens echoed with his divine orchestration. Where will this journey lead them, and how will their choices echo in the annals of history? The unfolding narrative remained cloaked in heavenly mystery, the promise of a coming resolution drawing near, yet unseen. As the days passed in the land of Shechem, Israel, formerly Jacob, felt the fervor of purpose entwining with his heartbeats. His family, a medley of strength and vulnerability, stood poised to forge a legacy that honored God's covenant. He gathered his sons, each a vessel of potential and promise, urging them to commit to a path illuminated by faith and unity. "Listen, my children," Israel began, his voice steady and firm, imbued with the weight of generations. "We must cast aside our fears and past transgressions. The Lord calls us to rise, to be a light unto the nations, not ensnared by the shadows of our history. We are appointed to reflect the glory of our God and to fulfill the promises given to our forefathers." His sons exchanged glances, the urgency of their father's voice settling in their hearts. Judah, emerging as a leader among them, nodded in agreement. "Father, we shall serve the Lord in all things. We will not repeat the mistakes of the past, but will honor the covenant and walk in his ways." Together they offered prayers and sacrifices, binding their hearts to the God of their fathers. The aroma of burnt offerings mingled with the cool evening air, wafting into the heavens as a fragrant offering of devotion. Dawn would break upon them anew, and with each passing day they forged a connection to the divine, strengthening their resolve to tread the path before them with fervent hearts. Yet a shadow loomed, manifesting within the hearts of Simeon and Levi. Memories of conflict and the violence birthed from their anger hung heavily. Israel sensed the tension, a reminder that true transformation lay not only in their declarations, but in their daily choices. He called them, desiring to impart wisdom and caution. "My sons, your strength is a blessing, yet do not let it emerge as wrath. The path of anger only leads to destruction. Learn the balance of justice and mercy," he urged, eyes searching their souls, imploring them to seek God's counsel. Simeon, outspoken, responded, "But Father, retribution is a natural response to dishonor. Shall we allow injustice to go unavenged?" Israel's gaze turned inward, wrestling with the memories that echoed within him. Each life bears the weight of choices made. Remember, our forefather has shown mercy time and again. Hold not hatred in your hearts. Let it instead be love that guides your actions, for we are called to a higher standard. The words hung heavy in the air, a gentle but firm challenge. The brothers exchanged looks of reflection, the seeds of their father's wisdom beginning to take root. Israel prayed for them, shielding their hearts with divine truth as clouds rolled overhead, concealing the light. Then, one fateful day as they worked in the fields, a visit from a group of Canaanites stirred trepidation. Unbeknownst to them, news of Dinah's dishonor had spread, igniting anger that threatened to engulf them once more. Amidst rising tensions, Simeon and Levi occupied themselves with thoughts of revenge, their minds clouded by a desire for retribution against those who had caused their sister pain. Israel, sensing the unrest, swiftly gathered his family. "Stay your hands, my sons. The Lord commands us to walk in peace, not vengeance. For vengeance belongs to the Lord. We must demonstrate his spirit of reconciliation." His voice carried urgency, grounding their hearts as fear and anger clamored for dominance. "But Father, they have wronged us," Levi exclaimed, passion surging. "Shall we forgive without justice?" In truth, between the bonds of familial affection and the fires of righteous anger lay the challenge of commitment to peace. Israel recounted the stories of his own transgressions, speaking of the transformative power of mercy over indignation, the embrace of Jacob before Esau, a glowing example of redemption. "See how the Lord has been faithful to us. We have spared each other from the bitter fruits of strife," he proclaimed. "Trust that the ways of God will emerge brighter than any fleeting desire for retribution. We are honored to show his grace." A stillness enveloped them, as the memory of their father's journey coursed through their minds, an echo of the wrestling match, the inclusion of divine promise, and the beauty of reconciliation. In that sacred moment, conviction settled over Simeon and Levi. They chose to stand by Israel's words, a collective resolve to trust in God's sovereignty over their lives. With renewed commitment, they gathered to present their case to the neighboring tribes, urging a path of peace and collaboration. As the sun dipped low, casting golden hues upon the land, Israel fell to his knees, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, O Lord," he whispered, "for the gift of unity, for weaving forgiveness through the fabric of our hearts. May your plans unfold brilliantly through us." His family rallied, their hearts now aligned, singing praises that echoed through the air, uniting the clans of their household. "Blessed be the name of the Lord," they rejoiced together, their voices harmonizing, a heavenly chorus ringing forth. And as night fell, celestial lights quivered in the darkness, the stars twinkling as if to affirm their choosing of peace over discord. The legacy of Israel began to crystallize, entwined in profound promises that resonated across generations, painting the horizon with the brushstrokes of hope. In time, the lineage of Israel bore forth notable champions, each called to embody the spirit of divine mercy and strength. As they walked in faith, the unfolding story grew, revealing the enduring nature of God's promise, a commitment written on the hearts of his people. Thus the Lord's name was exalted in the lives of Israel and his sons, echoing throughout history as a testament to love conquering strife, bringing forth a people destined to transform the world in his name. And behold, the chronicler of Jacob whispered softly, "These seeds of faith so long tended would flourish in the light of his countenance, nurturing a tapestry still being woven with the threads of promises yet to unfold." Let each heart reflect upon this sacred calling, to strive for reconciliation, embrace faith, and step boldly into the divine hope that binds us to one another and to him. As you ponder this great legacy, remember that in our struggles, God's grace meets us. Now I extend a heartfelt invitation to you, dear friends. This is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the powerful biblical stories that can change lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, for the truth is meant to be shared. Comment your reflections below. How has this journey of Jacob and Esau impacted your faith? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second. Only true believers understand the urgency of spreading biblical content to reach more souls for Christ. Your support matters in this mission to magnify his name.